Good evening and welcome to Italian Impact Podcast. I'm your host, Steve Stefano Mancini, and as always, I'd like to thank you for tuning in. And I would also be remiss if I did not thank my listeners from all over the world. Yes, I have dozens and dozens of listeners who've been tuning in from other countries. In particular, for whatever reason, I said this in the last episode, I got this huge uptick in listeners from Singapore. So I want to thank you for the folks in Singapore that are tuning in. And I think the fourth most downloaded country is Brazil. So I do remember some of my Portuguese. So I would like to say obrigado for my listeners in Brazil. I hope you are all having a wonderful day. And unfortunately, I've only got a few listeners in Russia, but I do have a loyal listener in Russia. I'm going to have to pick up some Russian to thank you for tuning in week after week, but thank you. And I hope things are better over there. Anyways, before I jump in with my guest, who I know is going to be entertaining, whether he likes it or not, I would like to just do a brief rail. Yes, I'm going to rail about something. Parking. You know why I'm railing? Because I got a $10 ticket today. You know what? I'm not going to rail. I'm just going to go right to the guest, and he's going to do the railing for me. Folks, I'd like to welcome this week's guest, Jimmy Denova. Jimmy, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve. It's good to be here.
And, you obviously had to hear my story before, so I don't want to bore you with it, but,
You have to understand that parking and traffic in Pittsburgh is a culture all its own. So you parked, you didn't put a chair out.
Yeah, that's right. I know. I had the audacity to visit someone during the day, and it's one of those, parking things where you have to have a permit. Well, what if the person you're visiting doesn't have a car, so they don't have the pass? So my whole point is, where do I go to, quote, get a visitor pass to park in a neighborhood when I'm visiting somebody?
There is no such thing as a visitor pass.
It's called a $10 parking ticket.
Well, you have to know your neighborhood. I lived in the south side of Pittsburgh for 20 years, and it's resident only.
But what if somebody's visiting you?
We considered them non-residents, but they were visiting, so they had a 45-minute visa. They were allowed to park there. Nobody ever got a ticket.
No, it's funny. It's like, it's Thanksgiving. Listen, I got to go. They're going to give me a ticket. And probably the only organization that does work in Pittsburgh continuously is the parking authority, because I'm not even going to say God bless them, but I'm going to say that, they're the only ones out there getting their money. And I don't care what day, I don't care what time. If it's within that limit, they're going to get out there give you a ticket.
Just think of it as a tax.
Oh, boy. The hidden taxes that we pay.
Many hidden taxes.
Well, and again, the worst part about it is I'm visiting somebody who's 90 years old. So I'm going out to have a coffee with them. And when I left the house, I said to him, I'll come back, but I got to be careful. I don't want to get, I literally said this. I said, I don't want to get a ticket. He says, you won't get no tickets. And I said, okay. And I get in my car and I start driving away. And I didn't even see the ticket at first. It was flapping in the windshield wiper. And I'm like, what? Oh, and I was like, I know what that is. So I had to pull over and get the ticket out of there. Lucky it's only $10, but it's the principle.
It's the principle.
It's the middle of the day. It's the day before a holiday. By the way, if you're listening to this, I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving. We obviously recorded this right before Thanksgiving, but it's right before a holiday. So, people are traveling. The streets were pretty empty because I know it's strange, but it turns out some people still work.
That's correct.
I know, it's crazy talk. But anyways, Jimmy, enough about me. How the heck are you?
Can I offer you one last piece of advice, free of charge,
Please.
On parking? I'm an ordained minister.
Really?
Yes. It cost me $50, and I sent off, and I'm an ordained minister in the Universal Church of Stuffinat. Now, when they sent me my diploma for $50, I got a clergy sticker for my bumper.
Oh, my God.
So
there it is.
Growing up Catholic in Pittsburgh, priests used clergy stickers on their bumper so the cops knew they were giving last rites, so you don't touch them. Now, I don't know what modern police are like,
well, that's a good
but
point.
You could, for $50, get a diploma and a clergy bumper sticker. So that if you're parking in a resident only, excuse me, I'm making a religious visit to this household. We'll see if it works.
I got a feeling in today's parking authority, there is no excuse. The
no.
second coming, and they're going to say, hold it, Jesus, hold it. We've got to get these tickets out, you know?
Jesus, can't we have laws in this town?
Jimmy, welcome to the show again. And you said, we don't know what we're going to talk about. I told you it was going to be good. Well, let's start with you, though. You said, hey, I grew up in Pittsburgh. Let's talk about where'd you grow up? Tell me about life.
Okay, so I grew up in the South Hills, Metro Carnegie. Okay. Actually,
Quasi-Pittsburgh.
Quasi-Pittsburgh. Okay. But honestly, and a friend once told me, you are your journey. So I always think about my identity was sort of wrapped up in my grandparents who emigrated from Naples, south of Naples, to a little quarry called Walker's Mill, which is outside of Carnegie. Look at, he's making a face.
I have no idea.
5 families, all from the same village.
Got it. Is it really called Walker's Mill?
It was. The Walkers had a mill.
Okay.
And it's a place, they now call it Collier, because it's been kind of gentrified.
Got it.
But it was 5 families.
I'm sure there's a Whole Foods there.
I'm sure there is now. Back in the day, it was my Uncle Mikey's store.
Wait, real quick, though. Isn't it ironic what we call, quote, Whole Foods and fresh foods was the norm?
It was.
Then we took the norm away, and now when you bring it back, it's like, oh, my God, what a novelty thought. We can have fresh vegetables.
What a concept, I'm saying.
All right, so now you grew up in Walker's Mill.
Grew up there, second generation American, okay? So grew up in the South Hills. My parents moved to a suburb away from that. So went to public school, spent most of my life in the South Hills, went to college and at Pitt, and just like...
hey, how'd they do this past weekend?
On
their football.
Football? I don't follow it.
Oh, good, because you don't have to want to see what they did this last week. They got blown out by somebody.
So you have to understand, I spent my high school career being bullied by jocks.
So, good for you. It's funny you say that, because there's a lot of the... You remember the movie from the 80s, Revenge of the Nerds?
Absolutely.
Okay, classic art, classic piece of American art. So anyways, towards the end of the movie, when they have all the donors or whatever, the alumni in the stands, and they were all the nerds.
Yeah.
But you wonder how many of these schools that didn't treat these, a lot of the students, for lack of a better term, the nerds, who go off and become the doctors and the lawyers and make the big bucks. And now they hit them up and say, oh, by the way, we're broke. Could you send some money to our $1 billion endowment, please? I'm really going to buy season tickets.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I wasn't the Bill Gates nerd in high school who made it big. I just sort of made it and got by. What are you going to do?
It's not all about money.
It's not. In fact, I spent most of my life in the nonprofit world.
Now, you said you did not go to Catholic school. I don't know what to think about that right now. I went to Catholic school. I paid my dues.
You sure
paid my
did.
dues.
You were Central Catholic Irish Mafia.
There were a few Italians there walking from Bloomfield, but it's funny because I don't know where the kids come from in Central now. I think they come from all over because what I'll call the schools that were kind of where they recruited, the pools of the students around there. A lot of those Catholic schools are gone.
They're all gone.
So you're kind of like, where do they pull the kids from if there aren't many Catholic elementary schools? So they must be just taking them from anywhere, anyone. Got to keep the 6A football team up, so they're recruiting from all over the place. I mean, that's the nice thing about Catholic schools. We don't have that little silly thing called boundaries, where you got to live in a certain area. It's like, this kid's from Buffalo. Yeah, but it's close enough. We'll bus them down every day for practice.
Oh, come on. I can get you a passport from any neighborhood in the city. I know a guy that knows a guy. But when you bring up Catholic schools, you got to understand, and I'm a practicing Catholic.
Me too.
Every week. But Catholicism is ethnic. And I was a Southern Italian Catholic. And I'll never forget my grandfather telling me at a very young age, you go to Mass every week, you take the sacraments once a month, you don't trust a priest as far as you can spit. So we had that nice distinction between Catholicism, the religion, and the Roman Catholic Church, the corporation.
The administrivia, as I call it.
The administrivia, and we knew that was corrupt as all get out, even before pedophilia. So I went to public school because we're not going to give them the money.
Interesting. Well, it was a lot cheaper back then because I went in the 70s and 80s. I mean, I graduated high school in 89 at Central, and I'm thinking, when I saw the tuition recently, I was like, "Oh, this is more than a lot of colleges."
Yep.
And I understand part of the reason of that because you don't have as many, like we had brothers. So they're ordained
Christian brothers,
right? So we had brothers. There was some laity there because I think the '80s was the real kind of what I'll call the last. I don't want to say hoorah in that way, but it was kind of like the last, remnants of the older church where you didn't have a shortage of brothers and priests and nuns teaching at these schools because once the '60s and the '70s came, we stopped encouraging people to become, in my opinion, we stopped encouraging, first of all, people to go to mass because now, there were a lot of outs or just society made it normal and the church didn't pound, the pulpit and say, you're supposed to be here. At the same time, the result of that then is you don't have people becoming priests and nuns and brothers. So now you've got nobody to teach in these schools. Now you've got to hire, civilians. And you got to pay them a decent wage. You're not going to compete against the public schools and the taxpayers.
Right.
So how do you get the money? You got to ask people for more money while these people are blue collar. And then you're coming out of a time, especially in Pittsburgh, where a lot of the blue collar was going bye-bye. So now they can't afford the school. So now they send their kids to public school. What happens to school? Diminishing attendance, not enough money, you close the school. And in fact, I grew up in Bloomfield, which was, quote, Little Italy. We'll talk about that one. There's not even a church there anymore. There is no Catholic church in Bloomfield. The two churches that were there are both closed.
Oh.
So they have to. If you're in Bloomfield, you have to go to Lawrenceville. Now, for people that aren't listening, you're saying, I don't care about Pittsburgh and Bloomfield and Lawrenceville. Here's what you care about is the fact that you're now sending little 70, 80, 90-year-old women who used to be able to go a block or two to church might now have to go 2 miles to church, and they don't drive. So how do they go to church? How do they worship? They don't. And now you just continue to, keep the problem rolling, and now you have less and less people going.
Yep.
So good luck, America, and good luck, Catholic Church. Well, I'll be there on Sunday.
Well, I got to tell you, I lived in Southside. This is a small neighborhood of immigrants.
Walker's Mill.
No, I lived as an adult in the Southside. I made my way into the big city from Walker's Mill. What can I say?
It's moving on up.
Absolutely. No, I moved to Southside late in life. For your local listeners, they know that it was once a neighborhood of half a dozen Eastern European immigrant communities, blocks, literally. You could walk down a street, you got your Carpathian Catholic church, you got your St. John's Byzantine church.
I had to think a minute on Carpathian. I'm like, okay, I got it.
Well, we've lost a few Carpathians here in Pittsburgh. But I mean, literally, the churches marked the ethnic fabric of our neighborhoods, and it's sad. It's sad that they're gone.
It is.
Religious or not.
Right. I was going to say, because it's the historical elements of it.
Right.
Some of these churches were really pretty. They were built by laborers who still had the skill set to do old-fashioned masonry.
Right.
And it took me a long time to realize, like, when people say, well, people can't build that anymore, and you kind of, like, shrug it off. But you know what? Realistically, we can't build it anymore because we know people that do that kind of stuff. I mean, at least the numbers. If you said, listen, go build me a cathedral like they did 400 years ago, people would be like,
what?
2x4s, drywall, some decorative bricks on the outside, an I-beam. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I'm talking about my house. But, I mean, that's how we pretty much build buildings now. It's I-beams, decorative brick, drywall. That's it.
You're talking about the artisans of the past, and particularly Italian immigrants and stonemasons knew how to build churches. They knew the craft.
Right, or anything brick or stone.
Yeah, it's gone.
That's Sadly. Why when they kept putting us into the corner, we said, okay, we're going to take over the cement business. Oh, you want a cement done? Oh, now he comes to me.
Now he comes. He needs a driveway? Yeah.
Yeah, for you, gringo, that'll be $20,000. For my paisan, it's $200. But all right,
it's redistribution of the wealth.
That's right. That's right. So you grow up in South Hills now, but you said your grandparents did immigrate here from Italy. All right. So tell me about. Do you have memories and stories of them and things like?
Oh, sure. It's my maternal grandparents that really defined family for me. So wherever we moved, my parents, of the greatest generation, moved to the suburbs. I moved to an industrial loft in Southside. It's every generation moves on. The heart of the family is still defined by my grandparents and the extended tribe that was from Walker's Mill. And I'll never forget all the wisdom and threats that came out of that household every Sunday for spaghetti, and we still have the Feast of the Seven Fishes. They've all passed away, but we have a few cousins that'll still bring us all together for the most disgusting fish on earth.
What is it?
Bacala.
Bacala, right. Is that just dried cod, right? A salted cod?
Yeah, but it's sort of like a spare tire that got peeled off and frozen. It's disgusting.
When I see it, I thank you, because I always feel like, am I supposed to like this? And I'm thinking, look, Italian or not, I ain't liking it. I'm sorry.
So my best friend in college, Denny Palumbo's father owned an Italian food store on Frankstown Road on the other side of Pittsburgh. And Denny said, you know what it was like to go to Churchill High School driving a station wagon that smelled like bacala all year long? Do you know what it was like to open up your lunch bag and have an eggplant sandwich when everybody else was eating chip-chopped ham?
Oh, chip-chopped ham. There it is.
But he said my locker smelled, my car smelled. Didn't have a date for 3 years.
I was like, that was a popular kid right there. Well, it's funny because
he's now a writer in L.A.
There you go. So now who got the last laugh? But it's funny you say that, because I remembered a few friends of mine. They came from those kind of houses, and I didn't per se, but they were like the truly traditional, where their parents or grandparents were, still alive.
Yeah,
and so they had the really stinky stuff. And I do remember a few people. I don't want to say making fun of them, because you're Italian too. How much can you make fun of another Italian? But you could definitely be like, dude, you stink.
I think we've worked it into an art form. We do mock ourselves.
Oh, I think so too. You said wisdom, and I know you kind of joke about one that said, no trust a priest. Fortunate reality is I'm a Catholic, I know some good priests, but I've also known some bad priests. So I won't pick on the Catholic Church. Again, there's like everything, it's good and bad. Like any organization, it's got good and it's got bad. But I always tell people, you don't put your faith in the people, right? You're going to be sorely disappointed. But what are some other, we'll just say, non-Catholic church-related wisdom that you can think of, you can remember?
Church-related wisdom?
Not church-related.
Not church-related.
Too easy.
Too easy. Especially now, it's too easy. I was first generation to go to college, right?
Okay.
But I'll never forget my grandfather, who really had a third grade education, and he came here in the beginning of the 20th century. He was of the noble immigrant population. He was drafted in the Italian army
during World War I?
Yep.
And I've seen that.
So he jumped ship. He was a draft dodger, because he knew if you were from the south of Italy and you got drafted, you went to the north of Italy as cannon fodder for the Austrians. So he's like, okay, I've got to go. And that was the beginning. But with the third grade education, he's the one that taught me humility, so that I was the first generation to go to college. He says, I don't care how much learning you have. You're not smarter. You're not better than the next person on the block. And I just, it's those simple, Fred Rogers kind of.
And I think if more
pearls.
people, especially the academics, would listen to that, they'd probably do better at their jobs. I think once people have convinced themselves that they know it all, and there's a difference between being confident in what you know and thinking that you know everything. And I think people are when you come to really engage with a quote know-it-all, they're some of the most insecure people out there, because they're terrified to admit they might not know anything. And so they're going to come off as if they know everything. And I see, because I teach in a university, and I see too much of that. And I've taught at different universities, including Pitt. And I see too much of that. You know what you know, admit what you don't know, and fill in the holes through learning. And you'll be so much better off in the long run.
But listen to everybody else, and that's how you continue to learn. So, I had that any sense of elitism, knocked out of me at a very early age. You're not better than anyone else. Just know this. But also, but when I have a PhD. Okay, and why do I have a PhD?
Because you're a smarty pants, Mr. Know-It-All.
I am. I'll tell you why. I have a PhD Powered Higher and Deeper, I think the letters stand for.
Got it.
Because when I was in high school, I was told I wasn't college material and I had a terrible attitude. And I said, I'll own B, but A, seriously? So that's an example. So I got shipped out of any college prep courses. So I decided, I think I'm going to go to college just to get my diploma and take it back and shove it down my English teacher's throat. And then maybe grad school, and I'll take that diploma back. And then they'll ask me to do a commencement speech, and I'll tell them don't listen to them when they tell you can't. None of that happened.
Nobody ever asked me to do a commencement speech.
I've done some for college, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Whenever I worked at a private foundation. We funded a lot of education programs, and every time you go to one of those touchy-feely retreats, and they say, "Tell us the story of a teacher that motivated you to go on with your life." And I tell them about my English teacher in the 10th grade who told me I couldn't do it. And I said, you got to understand, a Southern Italian motive of vengeance is a powerful incentive. So I did it for all the wrong reasons. Fred Rogers would not approve. What are you going to do?
Exactly. All right, folks, listen, I'm going to pay the bills real quick, so we will be right back after these messages. Thanks to Greater Pittsburgh Travel. For any of your travel needs, let Tom and the team at Greater Pittsburgh Travel know, and they'll take care of you. For more information, call 412-331-2244 or visit their website at www.greaterpittsburghtravel.com. For all of your plumbing needs, be sure to try Palucci Plumbing. Nick and the team have decades of experience and will get you back up and running. For more information, call Palucci Plumbing at 412-782-5050. And we want to thank the Calabria Club of Pittsburgh. If you're interested in learning more, you can find their contact information on Facebook at Calabria Club of Pittsburgh. Again, thanks Domenica and the team at the Calabria Club of Pittsburgh for your support. And we want to thank La Scuola d'Italia Galileo Galilei, the only nonprofit school in Pittsburgh endorsed by the Italian Consulate. If you're interested in learning Italian or have your children being immersed in the Italian culture and language, be sure to give them a call at 412-404-7070. And that's La Scuola d'Italia Galileo Galilei. We'd also like to thank Chris Gonzalez from the Knights of Columbus. If you have any questions about joining the Knights of Columbus, reach out to Chris Gonzalez at 412-605-9074. Okay, welcome back. And that was a quick break. Jimmy, you like how I did that?
That was incredible.
If only you folks could see
In
it
fact,
in the studio.
I'm going to call that cement company right after this show.
That's
from
right.
My driveway.
If you have a cement company and you're interested in sponsoring the Italian Impact Podcast, please give me a... Oh, by the way, I do want to mention something. Folks, if you have any questions or, as I love to say, any good guests you think would enjoy their time with me, or if you would like to be a guest on the show, as you can see, if I have Jimmy on here, I'll pretty much take anybody.
Yeah, no standards.
There's no standards here. Send me an email at questions@ItalianImpactWeekly.com. Again, that's questions@ItalianImpactWeekly.com. And please, no more emails on how to improve my website. I get a lot of that spam. But so, Jimmy, let me ask you a question. When did you graduate? You said you got a PhD, though, but what did you do? Did you teach?
No, I never did teach. I worked as a social worker for Catholic Charities, as a matter of fact. And then went into research, and I was hired finally by a...
You were really like countering. Anyone that said this, you made sure that you did that. Okay,
oh,
I
yeah.
got it. No, I get it. Don't trust a priest. Okay, I'm going to go into Catholic Charities personally and make sure these SOBs don't steal the money. It wasn't, well, I don't know if it was the priest stealing the money. It was usually the guys passing the bucket around that you had to kind of like... That's why I tell you what, to this day, I do not give cash to church. And I'm sure these guys are the nicest guys in the world, but it's so ingrained in me, and I hate to say it, I grew up, and I know that there were money disappeared.
Yeah.
So to this day, I write checks. I do not put cash in the box. I will write a check every week.
Because you've seen them put one envelope goes in the basket, one goes in the
pocket.
pocket.
You can't do anything with it because it's written out to the church.
Right. Right.
So, folks, if you go to Catholic Mass, or any Mass for that matter, consider giving a check instead of cash. Or give online. The only problem with giving online is there's like a fee you got to pay to the third parties that usually take the online contributions for the church. So.
Steve, there's always a fee.
I know. For visiting elderly in Aspinwall, it's a $10 fee.
I'm just telling you, $10 fee.
All right, so you didn't teach. You worked for Catholic Charities.
And then I got into the foundation world. Now, the foundation world is a weird sector in this town, and they're private grant-making entities. I worked for the Benedum Foundation, which gave out grants for education and and other kinds of projects. So I got to travel around the region and determine who gets grant money. So I was basically spending somebody else's money.
I like it.
It was cool. And
kind of like the government.
Yeah, kind of like the government, except foundations are set up by people who leave the money in their will. So Michael Benedum left a bunch of money to set up a trust. So I was basically spending a dead guy's money.
Right.
And so he never objected to the decisions we made. But it gave me a chance to go back and revisit this whole elitism stuff that I experienced early on.
And you said, I'm going to be the elite this time.
I'm not the elite. But I got juice. So
that's kind of what makes you elite. But go ahead. So now you're spending a
it's
good guy's
kind of
money.
an anti-elitism. You know what I'm saying?
You give it to the projects that the elites think should get it.
Vocationals.
Or the opposite ones. Exactly.
All blue collar.
Exactly.
All blue collar.
They can't stand it. No, that's
what
fantastic.
can I say? Vocational schools, community colleges. Best years of my life. Got to meet some authentic people.
There's a lot of good people out there. That's, I think, gives me hope. Contrary to what you might see if you watch the news on a regular basis, which I do not, if you go out in the real world, most people are normal. They just want to be left alone. They want to live a life in peace. They want to make sure there's enough food on the table, a roof over their head, have some nice things. That's most people. Right. But unfortunately, you wouldn't know that by watching, news.
But
News, you think. Yeah. I mean, I was telling you today when we went to lunch. I said, I spent my first 6 years in the military. I spent overseas. I came home one time in 6 years, and at the time, the only cable news was CNN. Okay, and this is during the 90s.
Oh yeah.
It was okay at that time in the 90s. It was a lot different. But the problem was, one thing that never changed, and this is when they just really started doing the 24/7 news, it was the constant, if it bleeds, it leads. So when you watch the news, especially when you're on 24/7 now, you have to find stories that constantly keep people engaged. So what you're not going to do is put the story on about the little boy who gets saved. Like, who cares? 3 dead in a 7-Eleven shooting, blah, 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 blah. Not picking on 7-Eleven, but, but whatever. Some other little mini mart shooting, that's on the news. This 10 good things, they're not there. So when you watch the news and you're overseas, I'm telling you, I was like, man, what's going on in America?
The world's going to hell.
Oh, yeah. So then you come back and you're like, wait a minute. Yeah. It's the same thing I left. Nothing's changed. But you wouldn't know that just from watching the TV. So, that's just my 2 cents. And welcome back, folks.
But there are authentic people out there, and
There's not all good people.
They're not all normal. You said normal people, but I prefer the abnormal, authentic, and gentle souls.
Again, what's normal? It depends on which generation you're in. What's normal?
That's for sure.
So let's talk about Italian traditions now. You learn some, you pick some up. You do the 7 fishes. What are some other big influencers that you could say, listen, this is definitely something I am, and this comes from that culture.
So most of it revolves around food. So that
are we nothing more than food and cement?
We are more than just carnivores and driveways. No, but so much of the family traditions revolve around food, because that's when extended family gets together.
Right. There is some event and you're going to eat.
Cousins, et cetera, et cetera. But I will say, too, that I still try to stay connected to the community events. So you take your neighborhood of Bloomfield.
Right.
You got Bloomfield Italian Days.
I'll beg to differ that it's Italian Days, but there's certainly, by name, it certainly says Italian Days. But have you been there lately?
I was there for Celebrity Bocce.
Okay.
And so you had all the Italian politicians and the Irish politicians.
Now, but did you get your beef jerky, gutters, alarm systems?
I bypass it. You got to be selective.
I'm just trying to look for the Italian nexus, but go ahead. All right, so that's good, though, but you do stay in the events.
It's closest thing we have.
That's true. There are some smaller events that are legitimately Italian, but I think because Pittsburgh has labeled Bloomfield Little Italy, that whatever they do, it's going to be Little Italy.
Yeah. And it is a little commercialized, Anglos go there now a lot, so.
Well, we're stuck with them.
What are you going to do? It's hard to be.
That was an in stereo. What are you going to do, by the way? That was not planned. Folks, there's no script here. This is literally impromptu speaking.
It's genetic.
That's right. So what else you do? Talk about some of the other any other hobbies that would relate around Italian culture or just life in general. Like what do you do?
Mob movies.
What's that?
Mob movies. I don't make them.
I live them.
You live them, but you're a filmmaker. But every from Goodfellas to Cousin Vinny, there's like a whole group of friends,
right,
that will get together. Mostly Italian, some wannabes and wish they were. But it's like the whole mob movie genre has become like a cultural centerpiece. I don't know if it's lost.
Let me ask you about that, because that's one I struggle with, and I'll tell you why. I watched all the movies, and I enjoy them, but does it stereotype Italians in a negative way?
It stereotypes Italians, but I think in many ways it elevates the charm and charisma of the race. My Cousin Vinny.
Oh, that's a great movie.
Okay, and I mean, how many times have you heard in the street, "Yeah, you blend"? Of course, because lines in the movie have now been part of the vernacular.
True.
So who else, but Joe Pesci could become kind of a cult classic. So
I agree with that.
It isn't that we're all criminals.
I think it's more of a New Jersey Italian or
it's not us,
Long
it's
Island.
them.
Right. Well, I mean, it's not.
No, I'm joking.
No, but I mean, but I also, because there's a lot of people that live in those neighborhoods that aren't Italian that talk and act like that way. So is that Italian or is it that area that it becomes? I mean, for example, hey, yo, that's not something Italians in Pittsburgh do that I can remember.
Oh, you need to go to some of the bars I go to.
Okay, apparently I don't. I don't get out enough. Oh, what do you mean there?
There's a lot of grunting.
All right, I'll buy that. I tell you what, though, it wasn't until later in life that I heard "boh, boh, boh." I was like, I may have heard it when I was younger and just never picked it up.
Well, you didn't know it was a whole paragraph.
Yeah,
you just thought
is.
It was a burp.
That's right. Well, it's funny because my neighbors were off the boat Italians on both sides of me. And there were a lot of them in the neighborhood. And and go, they're walking up the street here. Like I do remember that, but it wasn't till later, and maybe this is the problem. It wasn't till later, because you grow up in it, it's the norm to you.
Yeah.
And the things that aren't that are abnormal. Then when you're away from it and you come back into it, you go, oh wow, I never realized that was that.
Right.
So now I look, I desperately try and remember things, and I cannot remember them. But it's like you'll hear something, you're like, oh, I kind of remember something like that, but I can't remember what it is. Or I remember, and a good one was quesadich.
Quesadich.
Yeah. That's a Calabrian dialect thing. That's not something a regular Italian would say. But I didn't know that. I had no idea. I didn't realize that was a specific thing to a specific area. It's not till later that you find out, oh, wow, now I realize that person was probably from Calabria.
There's no such thing as Italian.
That's right.
So, it's a new country. It was kind of pieced together like Yugoslavia, but every region is a different identity.
And still.
So you're Calabrese, I'm Neapolitan. My mother married a Sicilian, and the Neapolitans didn't think they could even reproduce, because they were such different tribes. And then up north of Rome, you have your polenta eaters who would leave a restaurant if somebody with a Neapolitan or Calabrese accent spoke at the table. Just saying.
I'll tell you, it's funny you say that. When I went, I'll tell you, when I went to Milan, so the first time I went to Milan and stayed there was this year. That's the bell. That's the Lord getting mad at us for making fun of the church. So
I didn't mean it. He said it. What?
No, but I mean, when I went up to Milan this year, I went 2 times. I went in May and I went back in September. I knew risotto was a dish, but I didn't realize that up there, that's their pre-meal. Like how Italians do everything in pieces.
It's their pasta.
Right. And I had no idea. I love risotto. My grandma made risotto, even though she's not from the north. She's made dishes that were from different areas. She just made whatever she was going to make, and definitely certain style to her cooking. But I mean, I remember eating risotto as a kid, but I didn't realize the difference of food until I finally went north. Usually I stay below what I'll call the Italian Mason-Dixon line, which is Rome.
Rome, right.
And so I went to Florence a few times, but I never went up to Milan or any of those areas. So when I went up there and they bring out risotto, and I'm like, okay, And then I went back, different restaurant, and it was the same thing. So it wasn't like it was like I thought maybe this is just like a special thing he's doing tonight. No, that was like the norm. Like you're getting risotto. So I was like, oh, okay. So it really, when you go there, you realize, wow, that's not a joke. To your point, like that's serious business. They are one flag, but it's like a lot of countries where you put these artificial barriers around them. You can't just encapsulate. And I mean, get a little political. That's the problem was in the Middle East. When back in the early 1900s, when I think it was the Brits decided to draw lines on a map, they kind of failed to realize these are tribes, and sometimes they don't actually like each other. In fact, they hate each other, and now you've just said, hey, by the way, you're the same country now. Oh, yeah, that's going to last.
Yeah.
Sarcasm.
The British with their rulers.
Right. And I think Italy, the difference with Italy, though, is I do think Italians are good with Italy, but I think they don't want to lose their regional culture either. And I think that's the difference.
I agree.
That's why it's not going to like become like Yugoslavia or what a lot of people right, or a lot of people think like even Iraq. It's three separate, completely different cultures. The Kurds, the Sunnis, and the Shiites, and they don't like each other.
Right.
But yet they got a line around them that says, "Congratulations, you're one country." And a lot of people think that should have been broken up after when the chance was there. But despite that, the point though is I don't think Italians have that bitterness towards their cultures. They do have a little bit of an almost, I'll call it a French way about them of the thumbing the nose, like, oh, those people are those, like that. But I don't think they're like any rush to break the country up. You know what I mean? Like it's just about maintaining cultures in their regions, which I like because I like to go to a region and get a different feel, and I'm still in Italy, so I do like that. And as much as we want to say that, we have that in America. Yeah. You go to the South, it's very different. I used to live in Georgia for a couple of years. It's very different. That was the first time I ever had sweet tea.
There you go.
So now, I mean, I had to get off that or I'd be a diabetic by now.
When I worked at the Benedum Foundation, Michael Benedum, who founded it, came from West Virginia. So we did a lot of grants in West Virginia. So I hit the highway when I was working there and never knew that kale was a thing.
Oh, kale's delicious.
It's a thing. I never even heard of it.
Right.
And they have kale festivals.
Pittsburghers won't.
Is it like an onion? I had it. It's like, never heard of it.
Or
so you don't have to go far.
No, that's
for
right.
different cultures.
That's absolutely right. Even when you go east side of PA, west side of PA, when you go up to New England, it's different. When you go to the South, it's different. When you go, Virginia, depends on where in Virginia you go.
Yeah.
But then you get the Midwest, you get down to Texas, and you go out to California, you go to Southwestern, Northeast, we have that kind of same thing here.
And I think the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is a classic example. There is no homogeneity in Pennsylvania. Philly is part of that Jersey, New York, Eastern Seaboard.
Oh. Or no, I'm sorry, they say yo.
Yo.
Okay.
They say yous.
That's for you, Rich. I know
that's
he's listening.
for yous instead of yins. They never got it right.
Billy Rich, brother, that's for you. I know you're in Columbus, but yo, Rich. Yeah, then you got the Amish.
You got the Amish in the middle, but we at the West.
What do we have?
We have more in common with northern West Virginia and eastern Ohio.
Agree.
And I've always said we should have a state along the Ohio River called Westovania, and then because we get each other.
Well, we are the Paris of the Appalachians.
We are.
And you know what's funny? I don't think people a lot realize that Pittsburgh is in the Appalachians.
Absolutely.
We're basically hillbillies.
Exactly.
And I don't say that negatively.
They don't like to hear it, but I know
we are. I'm on the western side where it's a little less. Let's just say it's a little closer to West Virginia and Ohio. I'm okay with that. I'm not insulting anybody. It's fun.
You snob, you.
I, too, have a doctorate. Therefore, I'm better than you.
Oh, hardly. So you know what they say about academic arguments here in the academy among PhDs? The passions run so high because the stakes are so low. Nobody cares what they're fighting about.
That's right. They
And
don't
I'm
even
married
care.
to a professor.
Where's she teach at?
She at Pitt. She's in ancient religions.
Really?
Yeah, there's a career track for you.
They still teach ancient religions? I'm
Yeah.
glad to hear that, actually.
She said, what could be more relevant than the search for the meaning of life?
It never gets old.
I'm telling you, it's been around.
It never gets old. And the irony
So
is that
she's
some of those
way out
religions.
there.
Well, it's funny because, first of all, some of the, quote, ancient religions are not, they're still here, depending on what area of the world you're in. They still practice things from, Christianity's 2,000 years old. Judaism's at least 3,000 or 4,000 years old. You have Islam is about 1,400 years old. You've got Buddhism. You've got, all these other religions. And then you've got, apparently I read an article, and I'm not making this up, but paganism is making a comeback in Italy.
Absolutely. Well, my wife will tell you that's what you Roman Catholics are. You're just a bunch of pagan polytheists.
I've heard that before.
I said, yeah, whatever. Just because we, took pagan statues and put a halo and called it a saint and buried it upside down if you want to sell a house. You calling me superstitious for crying out loud?
Wait a minute. You bury the saint upside down?
Yeah, St. Joseph upside down facing away so you sell the house. What? You don't know that story?
No, that's crazy. Why would I bury a saint upside down?
To sell your house. And it has to be St. Joseph upside down facing away.
Well, you got to tell me, where does this come from? I've
I don't
never
know.
heard of this one.
It was part of the oral tradition that my grandfather taught me.
Wow. Does that go back to the old country?
It goes, yeah. And it probably some municipality somewhere where some goofy uncle did it and it sold his house and he said, I got it.
Well,
It's like the Maloikia.
There was always a first.
There was always.
Somebody was the first one to do the it. Well, I tell you what's funny you said, because in Rome, and in some of the towns, not just Rome, but I noticed in Rome, there's a ton of them. When you're walking around and you see the older buildings, on the corner of the building, you'll see the little, I can't remember what they're called. But they're like little altars.
Yeah.
And you'll see little shrines still, and I think that goes all the way back.
It does. They used to be local gods.
Right, to the pagan days.
Yeah, here come the Christians. They just flipped the statue.
I think our theology is a little different, but yes, I listen. I don't think a good Catholic can deny that when it became the Roman Catholic Church per se, that you can't say they didn't incorporate some of the processes and procedures at a minimum. Now the theology was very different. But the processes and procedures and how you do things and statutes, I don't know how you could deny that.
Absolutely.
So, good times. Jimmy, what else before we start getting ready to go? Because I think the attention span of my listeners. We're about 10 minutes past what I do, and I like that.
Oh, I'm boring
No,
you.
you were interesting. You stayed longer.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Come on, words of wisdom. Hurry up now. My listeners are getting anxious.
Whatever you need to know in life, the Romans did it first.
Folks, I don't think they probably. Probably. They too borrowed a few things from the Etruscans and the Greeks. But for the most part.
Yeah, but they got the patent on it. What can I say?
That's exactly right. Listen, whoever does it the best sometimes isn't first.
I'm going to give you one other line. It'll land on the editing room floor.
Nothing's getting cut out of this one.
If you ever see the movie The Life of Brian, Monty Python, it was a story of Jesus, and it's very irreverent.
I've seen that.
Gotta see it.
Decades and decades
Jesus
ago.
is being crucified, so the Israeli Liberation Front is protesting in front, saying, we've got to get rid of the Romans. What have they ever done for us? And somebody yells, well, roads. Okay, outside of roads, what did the Romans ever do for us? Well, the aqueduct. Okay, outside of roads and the aqueduct, what did the Romans ever give us? Well, the law. Okay, outside of the roads and the aqueduct and the law, what did the Romans ever do? And it goes on and on and on. And so my wife of obscure antiquities will always come up with whatever you bring up in a conversation. She'll say, the Romans started that. Fast food, toilets.
That's right. You know what? We are going to extend today's episode because I'm going to tell you another little story.
This is part two.
When I went to the first time I went to Pompeii was the first time I went to visit Italy. And by the way, the first vacation I ever took where I flew in an airplane was to Italy. That was the impetus for me to finally get on an airplane voluntarily, because every time I'd flown was military or government. I never flew for pleasure ever. So this is probably 2016 time frame was the first time I ever flew on an airplane for pleasure. So I went to Italy. And, the travelers, you're going to go take a day trip down to Naples or go see Pompeii. And when I went to Pompeii, it's funny you say the fast food thing. Of course, they take you into the bordello, show you the pictures on the wall. But then they show you the little stands that would have been out there for you to walk by, pay your little, I don't know, they weren't shekels. What did the Romans use? Denarii?
Denarii, yeah.
Denarii.
Yeah.
Shekels were what the Jews used in Israel.
Yeah.
So and there was the little bins where you would buy your bread or whatever the mush was that they were selling. And apparently they put so much vinegar in it that it could never go bad. But it must have stunk. It was fish and vinegar and just disgusting concoctions. I guess you throw some bread on it, but to your point though, in a way, that was like the modern world.
Right.
It was like you're walking down the street. Hey, I'm going to stop and get something to eat. Let's go up to the temple. Let's go to the piazza and hang out for a little bit. I mean, that was essentially...
Grab a bite on the way.
Right. Stop at the bordello on the way back.
I'll give you one last Pompeii factoid. Over every doorway, there was a good luck symbol, if you remember, and it was a penis. So...
Folks, thank God this is PG-13. You just said the P word on a podcast.
Yeah.
Joe, we're not cutting that out.
But it's...
And Jimmy, I'm going to leave it in.
The point being, it was a good luck amulet. Right. So people would put them on
I tell you what, you learned a lot about Pompeii. And if you're going to take your kids there, look.
Be ready.
Be ready. Exactly. Exactly right.
So it was everywhere. So when the Christians came in and said, we got to do something about this, they converted the penis to the Italian horn. That every time you see a horn... Are you sure about that? I am.
I got an uncle who told me.
I'm positive.
I'm not saying you're wrong, but I'm glad I don't have a horn on me.
Just saying. At one time, it would have been a penis. And my wife has a brooch that she picked up in Pompeii, and it's like a flying penis with wings and the scrotum. And I'm saying, Beck...
Let's not wear that to church.
Yeah, seriously.
Let's wear the horn instead. Are you for real though? The horn came from the...
I'm just saying. We'll see what your listeners say to fact check that.
Questions at ItalianImpactWeekly.com. And thank God I'm not on the radio. Amulet. I can't get canceled.
I try to end on a high note. But as you said earlier... I set a low bar for your next guest.
Fantastic. All right, folks, especially my listeners in Singapore, Brazil, Russia, Albania, Israel. I've got a whole bunch of countries that are tuning in. UK, I said Australia, Canada, obviously here in the U.S., but I am absolutely humbled and honored that you tuned into me. I really appreciate that. The fact that people all over the world are actually listening to me is, I don't even have words. I think it's awesome.
I do too.
I don't know what you're listening for, but God bless you, and I appreciate you listening. I hope you had a good time at least. But folks, I want to thank you again for tuning in. Jimmy Denova, I want to thank you for being my guest.
Steve, thank you for having me and tolerating me.
Well, I had to. Now I'll make the check out too. That's Italian. No, I'm just kidding.
It was your mitzvah for an old retired guy.
Oh, I appreciate it. And Gino, I want to thank you again, brother, for the introductions. Without you, I wouldn't know Jimmy, and I'm already liking him. And I'm already thinking he's going to be on the next video one, and he can tell you the story as to why he's going to be on the next video one. But anyways, folks, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it. And as always, God bless. Have a wonderful week, and you take care of yourself out there.